Hi kids, it's Maryann and time for full steam ahead. Today we're going to be talking about leaves, most especially the leaves that are falling outside right now. Why are they doing that? Let's find out. What is a leaf? A leaf is a part of a plant that helps the plant to grow. How does it do this? Through a process called photosynthesis. That's a big word, but what does it mean? Well, the leaf is full of something called chlorophyll. It's a green substance, which is why you see the leaves green most of the year. The leaf takes energy from the sun, water from the soil, and carbon dioxide from the air. It takes all those things and through the chlorophyll creates sugar, and that sugar keeps the tree alive. Now, this time of year, the tree realizes less sunlight is going to be available. We're tilting away from the sun. You know that it gets dark much earlier now, and it's going to continue getting darker earlier. The tree knows it too. So there'll be less water and less sunshine. There'll still be plenty of carbon dioxide because that's what we breathe out. But those other things won't be there to keep the tree alive. So the tree goes into a kind of hibernation, like a bear does. It knows there isn't going to be food, so it knows it's time to rest. How does a tree rest? Well, first, it stops using the leaves. The leaves are now cut off from the rest of the tree. The leaves then no longer are taking in CO2, carbon dioxide. They're no longer getting water from the soil. They're no longer getting the energy from the sun. So the chlorophyll is no longer working to keep the leaf green. Under that green chlorophyll all year long have been bright colors. That green chlorophyll has just been covering it up the whole time. So as the chlorophyll goes away, the other colors can shine through. But since the tree has decided it doesn't need the leaves anymore and has cut them off at the stem, they're not attached as tightly anymore. So when a big breeze comes through, the leaves fall to the ground. Now, I have been in my neighborhood, mostly in my yard, picking leaves this morning. And I want to show you some of the leaves I've found. I have this kind of tree in my yard. It's called a poplar. This branch was on the ground. The leaves hadn't started to turn when this branch broke off the tree, but they had when this branch broke off. And you can see that the chlorophyll is still strong in this branch, but is not in this branch anymore, and the yellow can finally show its colors. You see a little bit of green still left, but the yellow has come through. I have a firebush in my yard. The firebush is green all spring and all summer, but in the fall it makes this beautiful, beautiful red because the chlorophyll is no longer working. What other kinds of trees are there? There are maple trees. Oh, maple makes the most beautifully colored leaves. It's hard to believe that under that green you see all spring and summer are these beautiful oranges and reds and yellows. And I believe this is a kind of oak tree. I only have one, so a breeze must have blown this one into my yard from far, far away. I don't have an oak tree in my yard. Now, each one of these leaves, while they look different, some have smooth edges, like the firebush. Some have really tiny, tiny teeth, which you probably can't see because it's very, very tiny. The poplar has very, very tiny teeth, almost like a saw. So you have smooth leaves, rugged leaves. Sometimes leaves are very pointy. But they all have some things in common. They all have a stem where it is attached to the tree. They all have a big vein up the middle called a midrib. They all have blades. Blades, like this is a single blade leaf. There's only one part of its body. This maple leaf has 3 blades. 2, 3. It's the big part. And within that big part, you have veins. Just like we have veins in our body that help the blood get to our heart, the leaves have veins to help the water, the sunlight, and the carbon dioxide get to it. So we have a tip. Sometimes they have sharp, pointy tips. Sometimes they have nice rounded tips. But all leaves have a tip, at least one blade, veins going through it, a stem, and the midrib, which is the biggest, strongest vein right through the middle. Okay, now, there's a way we can get these colors out of the leaf. The colors are called pigments. Pigments are colors that occur in nature, and it's where we get a lot of our paint from. We get paint from pigments in nature. We get the color from makeup from pigments in nature. And these are pigments in nature, and we can get them out of the leaf. Let me show you how. First, you want to take leaves of the same color. So for the first cup here, I just have a clear plastic cup, I'm going to take red leaves and I'm going to rip them up into teeny tiny pieces, which sometimes if you're having a bad day feels really good. Rip, 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 rip. Okay. Now, how about I take yellow poplar leaves and even yellow oak, and I can rip those into teeny tiny pieces. You can rip them as small as you have the patience to rip. I suppose I could put them in a food processor. Then they'd be mush oatmeal. All right. And then how about some greens, some leaves that still have chlorophyll in them. This actually smells really good. I'm enjoying this. Now, to get the color out, we're going to need something that extracts color, and in this case, we're going to use rubbing alcohol. It's the kind of stuff they wipe on you right before you might get a shot. Alcohol will help pull the pigment out of the leaf. Doesn't need a lot, just about a tablespoon or so, just a blurp blurp. And then, I like this part, mush. Mush, 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 mush. Mush, 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 mush. You can do this for a long time. You can mush it and mush it all you want. Then, once you've turned it into this kind of mushy soup, you can add a piece of paper towel or piece of coffee filter so that it's touching the the alcohol, and it will start to pull the colors up. It happens right away, but it's more fun to leave it overnight and check on it the next morning. I've done this earlier. My red leaves weren't quite so red because I didn't have any maple leaves and I didn't have the red firebush from my backyard. So the reds in this were more rusty red. And I had yellow leaves and I had green leaves. And what I ended up with is the chlorophyll. I had it in this way. The chlorophyll came out, and then under the chlorophyll was the yellow. So even though all the leaves in this batch were green, I can see that if they had stayed outside, they would have eventually turned yellow. That's the color underneath that green chlorophyll. The yellow ones, not a lot of chlorophyll left, so I basically just have different shades of yellow. I've pulled the yellow out. And the one that was reddish purplish, has made a nice rust color. First yellow and then rust. No chlorophyll left in that one. We're going to take a break for a moment while I clean this mess up, and we'll come back and I'll show you some fun things we can do with leaves. See you in a minute. Hi, we're back. Now I want to show you some fun things you can do with leaves. First of all, if you go outside, grab a few leaves, there's a way you can save them. The colors are so pretty. I love looking at leaves, but if you just leave them out on a table, they're going to start to curl because the water is not in them anymore. They're going to start to dry, and that's going to make them curl. If you want to keep them looking pretty, you can press them. Something people have been doing for years and years and years. It's so easy. All you need is a piece of paper, some leaves, another piece of paper, and a heavy book. Let me show you that again. It's so easy. Just take a piece of paper, put the leaves you want to save on it. Here, I'll put another one like that too. You can put as many as you want in there. You don't want them to overlap, but you could put quite a few. Another piece of paper. The pieces of paper are because the leaf does have a little bit of water left in it, and something needs to kind of absorb that water. It's not enough that it's going to make the paper wet, but it's enough that if you don't do it, it might get the book a little soggy or a little stained. We don't want that to happen. So a piece of paper, leaves, another piece of paper, and a heavy book. If you don't have one heavy book, try 4 or 5 kind of heavy books. There's no limit to the number of books you can put on top. Or maybe your little brother or sister can sit on top. But you got to leave them for a long time and they might not stay. So if you leave that for, let's say, 2 days, you will end up with some pressed leaves. I pressed these a few days ago. So I have leaves that were out and back of the library, and I pressed them. They're very, very thin now. They almost feel like paper. This is one of my favorite trees outside the library. It has big purple leaves. And again, some of the leaves have jagged edges. Oh, here's a beauty. Ooh, you can hear that it's dry too. And these will stay like this. They're not going to shrivel up. The water's gone, they're pressed. You could even hang them up on the wall. They're that pretty. So that is pressing leaves. The next way we can have fun with these leaves is by making leaf rubbings. This is something scientists even do. It helps them understand the biology of the leaf. Now you don't want to take one of your pressed leaves because we've pressed most of the bumps out of those. So you take a fresh leaf, put it on a piece of paper, take another piece of paper. This piece of paper should be thin. You might have some cardboardy construction paper around, but this one you actually want thin because you want it to be able to show all the ribs and veins and parts of the leaf. So I put one piece of paper on top. I can't see the leaf through it, but if I take a crayon and just glide it across, I don't need to be very good at coloring or anything. All I have to do is glide it across. And now, I hope you can see that, I have a leaf print. And you can do them in all different colors. You could do more than one leaf on a page. Let's say, I'm going to add the beech leaf to it. This one I'm rubbing harder because I have to color over the red that I've already colored on this page with this orange. I can see the midrib, the veins, the stem, the blade, the tip. I can see all the parts of the leaf in my leaf rubbing. And that's another pretty thing that could be hung up. It's art. It's gorgeous. Now, here's the one. It's in your bag. I have not done it yet. I like doing things right along with you. I like it when we learn together. So in your bag was some paper for doing leaf rubbings. There is a leaf identification sheet with little circles next to each kind. Now I only found let's see, a sugar maple and an oak. But if I went outside looking for particular leaves, I might find an ash or a walnut or a sassafras. See what's in your yard or your neighborhood or the park. Now, what I'm getting to is our last project, which is 2 hunks of wood. What are these for? A piece of white muslin fabric and an elastic. We're going to do a kind of pigment transfer. We're going to get the pigment from the leaf onto this piece of fabric. How are we going to do that? Well, first we're going to take the piece of fabric and put it over one of the blocks of wood with an elastic, just so it kind of stays in place. Then we're going to take a leaf. I will take one of these red leaves. Do you know what I've already done? I'm going to put the leaf under the fabric. Under the fabric. Then I'm going to put the elastic on. Okay. Now, what am I going to do with this block? Well, it's going to make a lot of noise. It's going to get pretty noisy in here. I'm going to pound the pigment out of it. Oh, that's worse than a hammer. What if I put it on top of a book? Will that muffle the sound for you so you don't have to hear my banging quite so loud? It does. I can bang like that. I can scrape. Because the leaf underneath isn't moving. I've got the fabric on top and I've got an elastic, so nothing's going anywhere. And I can just bang, 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 bang. And like ripping the leaves, it also gets out some of that energy you have. All right, let's see. That wasn't a very long time. I could sit and bang this for a long time, but you've got things to do. So I want to show you the result of banging for a minute. I've pulled out the pigment. Again, pigment is something they use from nature to color clothes, paint for your walls, nail polish, makeup, anything that has a color added to it. They get it from pigments, and pigments from, oh, that is pretty. Pigments from the fire bush will look like that. All right. What else is in this bag? There's just one thing left. Pretend leaves. Pretend leaves are in here because I'm not sure what kind of day you're going to have when you're watching this. It might be a beautiful day like today is, where you can go outside and it's sunny and you can pick up some colored leaves off the ground. But maybe it's going to be a rainy day when you watch this and you can't go outside. What can you do? You can still make an art project. I put some pretend leaves that are colored the leaves of fall. There's reds and oranges and yellows and a couple greens here and there. And you can make your own project. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what to make out of these leaves because I found that your ideas are amazing. You come up with things I could never come up with. So you can use glue, string, tape, paper, whatever you want, scissors, and make something out of the leaves that I've put into the bag for you. I hope you enjoyed learning about leaves today. I had fun playing with you. This was a good time for me. I want to tell you something. In about a month or so, we're going to be doing a story time about boxes. So between now and November 30th, if you could put aside some big cardboard boxes, some little cardboard boxes, cereal boxes, boxes that Amazon delivers things to your house in, whatever kind of boxes you find, put them aside and save them for November 30th, because that day I want you to have lots of boxes on hand for creating. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. Enjoy this beautiful fall weather, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.